For more than 100 years, the automobile industry believed progress followed one simple rule. Every new generation had to be bigger, more powerful, more luxurious, more expensive. Somewhere along the way, bigger became the definition of better. But something strange is happening today. Across China, Japan, and Europe, millions of people are choosing cars that seem impossibly small. Some are barely larger than a motorcycle. Some cost less than a used pickup truck. At first glance, they look like a step backward. Yet they are becoming one of the biggest success stories in the global auto industry. Most people think they already know why. It's because people can't afford bigger cars. That sounds logical. Until you discover that one of the world's richest countries has been buying tiny cars for more than 70 years, or that European cities are embracing microcars, or that one of China's smallest electric vehicles became one of the best-selling EVs on Earth. 3 different markets, 3 different cultures, one surprisingly similar answer. This isn't really a story about small cars. It's a story about how the world is redefining what a car is supposed to do. For generations, people asked, what's the biggest car I can afford? Today, millions are asking a completely different question. What's the smallest car that can still do everything I need? The car that nobody believed in. When the Wuling Mini EV first appeared, almost nobody expected it to succeed. It looked tiny, almost fragile. Compared with the sleek electric cars dominating headlines, it seemed outdated before it even arrived. To many people outside China, it looked less like the future and more like a toy. The timing made its arrival even stranger. The entire EV industry was moving toward bigger batteries, longer driving ranges, larger touchscreens, more horsepower. Every manufacturer seemed to believe the same thing. If customers could afford more, they would always want more. The Mini EV ignored almost every one of those assumptions. Then something happened that completely surprised the industry. People started buying it. Not a few thousand, not a few 100,000, millions. Within just a few years, the tiny Wuling Mini EV became one of the world's best-selling electric vehicles. The smallest car had defeated some of the biggest names in the EV business. That wasn't supposed to happen. The obvious explanation was price. Of course, a cheaper car would attract buyers. Case closed. Except the deeper researchers looked, the less convincing that explanation became. Because the people who actually own these cars kept saying something completely unexpected. It was never just about price. If low price were the real reason for the Mini EV's success, every owner should have given the same answer. I bought it because it was cheap, but interview after interview told a different story. People rarely started by talking about money. Instead, they talked about how the car quietly fit into their everyday lives. One owner loved how easily it slipped through crowded streets. Another appreciated never worrying about parking again. A young family used it for school runs and grocery shopping. An older couple said they had finally stopped paying for a vehicle that was far bigger than they actually needed. The car wasn't changing their lifestyle. It simply made that lifestyle easier. That revealed something the industry had overlooked for decades. Most people don't spend every weekend driving hundreds of miles. They don't tow heavy trailers. They don't race between traffic lights. Most trips are surprisingly ordinary: home, work, shopping, school, home again. For those journeys, a bigger car often adds very little value. The Wuling Mini EV wasn't successful because it gave people more. It became successful because it removed everything they didn't really need. And once millions of drivers discovered that enough could actually be better than more, it became clear that China wasn't discovering a new idea. It was rediscovering one that another country had already perfected decades earlier. Japan. Solved this long ago. For many people, the rise of tiny cars seems like a brand new trend. It isn't. Long before China built the Wuling Mini EV, long before electric vehicles became a global race, Japan had already spent decades proving that smaller cars could solve bigger problems. For more than 70 years, millions of Japanese drivers have relied on vehicles known as K-cars, not as a niche product, not as a second car, but as part of everyday life. To outsiders, K-cars almost seem too small to make sense. Their engines are tiny, their bodies are narrow. Some look almost fragile parked beside a modern SUV. Yet in Japan, nobody questions them. Parents drive them to school. Office workers commute in them every morning. Farmers use K-trucks to transport crops. Small business owners deliver goods with them every single day. They aren't viewed as compromises. They're simply the right tool for the job. The most surprising part is who buys them. Japan isn't choosing small cars because it has no other option. It remains one of the world's richest economies. If people wanted larger vehicles, many could easily afford them. Yet year after year, roughly 4 out of every 10 new passenger cars sold in Japan belong to the K category. That statistic completely changes the conversation because it proves this isn't about poverty, it's about efficiency. People aren't asking which car has the most features, they're asking which car makes everyday life easier. Japan quietly discovered something the rest of the world is only beginning to realize. A bigger vehicle doesn't automatically create a better life. If your commute is short, if your streets are narrow, if parking is limited, then every extra inch of a vehicle becomes another problem to manage. Sometimes, the smartest car isn't the one that can do the most. It's the one that wastes the least. And that is exactly the lesson China would eventually discover in its own way. The power of enough. At first glance, China and Japan couldn't be more different. China reshaped the auto industry through affordable electric vehicles. Japan built its reputation with small gasoline-powered cars. Different technologies, different histories, different cultures, yet both ended up embracing the same philosophy: build only what people truly need. For decades, the global auto industry competed by adding more horsepower, more luxury, more electronics, more screens, more size. Every new model promised customers something extra, and consumers gradually accepted the idea that more automatically meant better. But tiny cars challenged that belief, not by offering something new, but by removing what wasn't necessary. That changes the question buyers ask. Instead of wondering, what's the biggest car I can afford? More people are beginning to ask, what's the smallest car that can comfortably handle my life? It's a subtle shift, but it completely changes how vehicles are designed. Instead of maximizing size, manufacturers begin maximizing usefulness. Instead of building cars for rare situations, they begin building cars for everyday life. Once you see transportation through that lens, another question naturally appears. If countries like China and Japan are moving toward smaller, simpler vehicles, why has America continued moving in exactly the opposite direction? Because over the last 30 years, the United States wasn't trying to build the smallest useful car. It was trying to build the biggest desirable one. America chose a different road. For decades, America solved a very different problem. Instead of asking how to move people more efficiently, it focused on making every new vehicle larger, more comfortable, and more capable. Pickup trucks grew into family cars, SUVs replaced sedans, crossovers replaced compact hatchbacks. Year after year, the average vehicle became bigger than the one before it. For a long time, consumers loved the change. More space, more comfort, more power, more technology. Bigger felt like progress. The industry had good reasons for moving in that direction. Larger vehicles generated higher profits. Customers were willing to pay more for extra features. Manufacturers competed to offer bigger touchscreens, more luxurious interiors, stronger engines, more safety technology. Every new generation promised something larger and better. Very few people stopped to ask whether they actually needed all of it, but every improvement came with another cost. Larger vehicles required more steel, more aluminum, bigger batteries, larger tires, more electronics. Every added feature increased manufacturing costs. Those costs eventually reached the customer. Today, buying a new vehicle often means taking on years of monthly payments. Insurance costs more, repairs cost more, replacing a set of tires costs more. Even parking becomes more difficult as vehicles continue growing. The price of owning a car no longer ends at the dealership. In many cases, that's where it truly begins. That helps explain why tiny cars are attracting attention around the world. People haven't suddenly stopped liking large vehicles. They've started questioning whether all that extra size is worth paying for. Because transportation isn't supposed to become a financial burden. It's supposed to make life easier. And that brings us back to a question the automobile industry answered more than a century ago. What was a car originally built to do? The original promise. If today's tiny cars feel revolutionary, history suggests otherwise. When Henry Ford introduced the Model T in 1908, he wasn't trying to build the fastest automobile in the world. He wasn't chasing luxury. He wasn't selling status. His goal was much simpler: build a car that ordinary people could actually afford. Before the Model T, automobiles were luxury machines owned by the wealthy. Most families could only admire them from a distance. Ford changed that forever. By simplifying production and lowering costs, he made personal transportation available to millions. For the first time, owning a car became realistic for factory workers, farmers, and ordinary families. The automobile became a tool for opportunity, not a symbol of wealth. Over the next century, that mission slowly changed. Cars became more powerful, more luxurious, more connected, more expensive. Every improvement made sense on its own, but together, they quietly pushed affordability further and further away. Eventually, many families found themselves spending years paying for transportation that was supposed to make life easier. That may be why the world is beginning to embrace tiny cars once again. Not because people suddenly prefer driving something smaller, but because they're rediscovering an idea the industry once understood. A great car isn't the one with the most features. It's the one that gives the most people the freedom to move. Perhaps the future of transportation isn't about building bigger cars. Perhaps it's about returning to the original promise of the automobile, helping ordinary people go where they need to go, without spending a lifetime paying for the journey. The return of enough. Today, the auto industry is experiencing its biggest transformation in more than 100 years. Electric vehicles are replacing gasoline engines. Artificial intelligence is entering the driver's seat. Cars are becoming smarter than ever before. Yet, despite all this innovation, millions of buyers are asking a surprisingly simple question: can I actually afford to own this car? For years, manufacturers believed technology alone would define the future. Larger batteries, more autonomous features, more digital screens, more software. Those innovations are impressive, but they don't solve the problem many families face every month: loan payments, insurance, maintenance, electricity, or fuel. The real challenge isn't buying the car, it's living with it. That's why tiny cars matter, not because everyone wants to drive one, and certainly not because they're perfect for every situation. Some people genuinely need large SUVs. Others depend on pickup trucks for work. Long-distance drivers benefit from larger vehicles. Tiny cars aren't replacing every automobile. They're simply proving that millions of people have been paying for capabilities they rarely use. Sometimes, less really is enough. That idea is beginning to spread far beyond Asia. Cities are becoming more crowded. Parking spaces are becoming smaller. Owning a car is becoming more expensive almost everywhere, whether it's a K car in Japan, a Wuling Mini EV in China, or a microcar in Europe. They're all answering the same question. How can we move people with fewer resources, lower costs, and less waste? Different countries have found different solutions, but the direction is remarkably similar. The future isn't necessarily becoming bigger, it's becoming smarter. The world isn't going backward, it isn't abandoning technology, and it certainly isn't giving up on innovation. What's changing is the definition of progress. For generations, progress meant building bigger cars, more power, more luxury, more features. Today, millions of drivers are measuring progress differently. Can this car fit my life? Can I afford to own it? Does it solve my everyday problems without creating new ones? That's why the rise of tiny cars isn't really about size. It's about value. It's about recognizing that freedom isn't measured by horsepower or giant touchscreens. It's measured by whether ordinary people can move through life without carrying an overwhelming financial burden. In many ways, the industry is returning to the idea that made the automobile revolutionary in the first place. Not creating the biggest car, not creating the most luxurious car, creating a car that ordinary people can actually own. Perhaps that's why tiny cars are appearing in places with different cultures, different economies, and completely different automotive histories. They're all responding to the same reality. People don't need the biggest vehicle ever built. They need one that fits the way they actually live. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. The future of the automobile won't be decided by who builds the largest battery or the most powerful engine. It may be decided by the company that best answers one remarkably simple question: how much car do people really need?